Welcome to the College Fan Podcast, where I read Caleb a bedtime story while he naps on his dying futon. It's basically The Princess Bride, but not. Instead of a story of romance, it'll be a story of death of prophets, smiting prophets, going to war. Mm-hmm. I'm in the wrong book. There we go.
You want 1 Kings chapter 19?
I want 18, actually.
Oh, we're going to start on Carmel.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, let's start on Carmel to understand 19. All right. You don't get over it. Okay, I was in second scene 18 for some reason, and then I jumped right to the right page. Brilliant. It was a great time. But yes, we just came back from...
Where's my bacon milkshake?
It's a few right there.
Okay, thanks.
Caleb's tired. We went out live streaming. We went out live streaming, and now he's not functioning anymore.
No.
Which is going to make this episode that I knew he was looking forward to a complete disaster.
It's going to be a wild ride, man.
So, we're going to go to 1 Kings 18. We're going to look at Elijah with his interaction on one mountain and then another interaction on another mountain. It'll be really interesting. The way the two narratives kind of, I mean, they reflect each other, but also like are opposite of each other in many ways too. So it's kind of cool. That's just different things that are happening. So we're gonna start with the first one. Contextually, what's going on is that we have the split of the kingdoms post Solomon. And now we have the northern kingdom, the southern kingdom. We're going through a variety of kings, and we've reached Ahab, because there's two Aleph, which means there's a slight separation. So Ahab, which is interesting because those are the two root words. One means brother, one means father. So he's a brother father, I guess you could say.
Sweet home Alabama.
Not that.
Is it kind of like Sarah literally being a sister wife?
Okay. Sure. We'll go with that for now. And so we're at the point where he's been declared as like one of the worst kings at this point in time. He's doing evil in the sight of the Lord. That is like, usually when you see that, it's tied to like idol worship of some sort and focus on other gods. And now we get them actually discussing like the consequence. So there's been a famine that's taken place. Life is really awful. You have Obadiah, who's been hiding all these prophets and like these like caves, like 100 prophets, because they're all being hunted, all being killed. He's protecting them. And so then Obadiah meets with Elijah, which is when we start to see Elijah really come onto the scene a little bit more. And then we get to this point where we're going to go with Ahab just because it'll be easier. So Ahab comes across Elijah in verse 17, where he says, when Ahab saw Elijah, Ahab said to him, "Is this you, the cause of disaster to Israel?" He said, "I have not brought disaster to Israel, but you and your father's house, because you have abandoned the commandments of the Lord, and you have followed the Baals. Now then, send orders and gather to me all Israel at Mount Carmel, together with 450 prophets of Baal and 400 prophets of Ashira, who eat at Jezebel's table." And it's just kind of interesting that we have a famine, and the two gods Elijah says to bring the prophets of are two fertility gods. Baal is associated with like plants and rain and stuff, providing life, the idea of like provision, and Asherah is also associated with that. So you have Elijah saying, "Yo, bring your two gods that basically are supposed to bring like fruition to your land when there's not any, and let's see what happens. Bring them to Mount Carmel." And the other thing that's cool about Carmel is that its root words refers to like an area that you work on, like just little kind of like a garden that you work on for vineyards and trees and stuff. So it's like on Mount Garden, bring your two fertility gods,
right?
We're to compete against my god, and we'll see what's what.
Yeah,
which is it's just kind of cool.
Yep.
So I guess what's kind of interesting is you now have a testing moment for the people who are seeing this happen. You have a testing for the prophets and for Elijah. I'm going to categorize the false prophets and Elijah separately.
Yeah.
So both of their faithfulness. And then there's like a testing of the gods. Who's truly God? But yet we're told, Yahweh is like kind of like showing he's okay with this because he's going to be doing something.
Right. Well, and then it's kind of the same thing with Gideon.
Yeah.
Right. Judges 6. Gideon does effectively test God.
Yeah.
Right. God, if this is really you, you'll make the ground wet and the fleece dry. And God does it. And Gideon's like, well, if it's really you, then you'll make the fleece wet and the ground dry. And he does it. He's like, all right, fine. So it's interesting that, and you do see other moments throughout Scripture where people do test God.
Yeah.
Right. And God, working with the hardness of human heart, and because he loves us for some reason, does say, all right, fine, I'll do it.
What's interesting is that you have those moments where there's times where he calls them out for us, like, you shouldn't be testing me. Then there's times where he's like, fine. And there's moments like this where he's kind of like, since Elijah's probably, it's kind of like, hey, we're going to do this. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Just they'll see what happens.
Right.
But I think it's really important to keep in mind that we have two fertility gods in the midst of a famine, because that plays a little bit more into the test that's actually about to take place, especially on Yahweh's portion of the test. Because there's a section that I know I've taken one way a lot, but then when you kind of keep those things in mind, it's like, oh, this is not merely just a showing off. This is like fully kind of doing something else entirely.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, and I don't want to jump into your notes, but it's kind of like a supersession, if you will.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Where God is saying, well, first I want to talk about something that was mentioned there, where Ahab says to Elijah, is it you, destroyer of Israel?
Yeah.
Which is how the HCSB translates it, which firstly is a fire title, but secondly,
you destroyer of Israel.
Exactly. And I bet you Elijah was feeling himself at that moment. But it's interesting that he puts it at the feet of Elijah. It's almost like this implicit recognition that the God of Elijah is greater. Right? Because if you do have two fertility gods are known for obviously life, right? And bringing life, and famine is a lack of life,
mm-hmm.
right? And plant life, and then eventually animal life. So there is this sense where God is causing this famine, Yahweh is causing this famine that the other two fertility gods cannot overcome.
It's kind of like him. He's like delusional in thinking that it is not his fault,
right?
As a king of Israel for these famines.
Exactly.
Like he's like, no, it can't be me.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, you're the destroyer. Israel's like, actually, I'm here to set you straight, right, so we can have life here again. Because right now you're kind of like making life suck. Okay, so we're gonna look at now what kind of goes at Carmel. I don't think we need to like go through. It's very well known next. We have effectively on Mount Garden a test for everyone there, the gods, in terms of the capital G and the lower G, the prophets, the false and the good, and then the people who are seeing this all happen, and the kings, who are witnessing this either presently or even like hearing about it from around the area. And you have it being on Mount Garden, the test regarding the fact that there's a famine, and one is like delusional of what's going on, and the question is going to be, okay, whose God really is more powerful? That's kind of part of the question, because if one God is more powerful, then they should be able to turn around this famine. We should trust in them to get out of this famine. And it should be implied already that if there's a famine and you have two fertility gods who have not been providing anything,
they're not strong enough.
You should already assume like, oh, okay, they clearly are not doing something here. But we're still going to put them to the test because they're not going to receive it that way. They're not going to just like kind of take it like, oh, it just means this. It must mean that we're not faithful enough. Or, no, this guy's coming to curse us. And it's kind of, but still it kind of shows like they're not strong enough compared to him. But
exactly.
Ahab sent orders among all the sons of Israel and brought the prophets together at Mount Carmel. And Elijah approached all the people and said, how long are you going to struggle with the two choices? If Yahweh is God, follow him. But if Baal, follow him. And there's kind of like some translations kind of point to like the idea of limping between the two. Like this, I mean, like just kind of like a struggle, but there's like this kind of limp. And it's interesting because these are two contradictory things. Like you can't follow Yahweh and follow Baal. It's very clear that Yahweh says you can follow no one else if you follow me. Yeah. And Baal is opposed to Yahweh. So you can't follow Yahweh and follow Baal, but they're trying to follow both. And he said, how are you going to limp between the two? You have to choose. And now we're going to give you no reason. We're going to give you reason to choose one and not choose the other.
Right.
So that's part of this whole test. It's called all the people there, all the witnesses there to come to Yahweh. And so it then goes on to say, then Elijah said to the people, I alone am left as a prophet. Technically, no. I mean, there's the other ones.
Right, but effectively, he is the only prophet of God that is willing to go before Ahab. He's the only one. He's the only prophet of God willing to go and do what God is commanding here.
Right. And I pointed out because later he's going to say that again regarding himself when he's in turmoil. He's like, I'm the only prophet. And it's like, no, you're not. But it's the being caught up in either being caught for the good reasons or being caught up for the bad reasons of what's going on, everything going on. And so, but he's, as you were saying, he's there like, I'm here as the only prophet right now going to represent Israel the way they should be represented. And you're going to be, and Yahweh, you're going to represent with your 450. Good luck. And so it says, while all supposed are 450 men, now have them give us 2 oxen, have them choose the 1 ox for themselves, cut it up and place it on the wood, but no fire under it. I'll prepare the other ox and lay it on the wood, and I will not put a fire under it. Then you call on the name of your God, and I'll call the name of the Lord, and the God who answers by fire, he is God. So he is the true like master of everything. Right. Which honestly, when I first read that, kind of heard my voice like, it's that episode in Friends where like, okay, you call the couch. And we'll call the couch. See who comes.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's kind of like you call the dog, I'll call the dog. It's like, this is much greater than that. But it's like, how about you call your gods? I'll call Yahweh. I love this. Like, you'll call yours.
Yep.
I'm going to call him. Calls him by name. I'm going to call this guy. Let's see what happens. Because we're going to set, we're going to basically set up a burn offering. We're going to set like a going up offering almost. Mm-hmm. But we're not going to be the one to start the fire.
Yeah.
The gods are going to be the ones to start the going up offering. I think it's kind of interesting with the whole point is that before it was the idea of us vicariously going up through that, and this time it's God coming and like
coming down.
Yeah,
right.
Effectively. Yep. But in this way, a much more explosive version. And so the narrative goes where, okay, the 450 prophets of Baal will go first. They pray. Time passes, and Elijah's like, what? Is he asleep? Is he cowering fear? What's going on here?
Urinating?
Where is he? What's going on? Why isn't he answering these powerful gods? Remember, these are 2 gods too, technically, Baal and Ashira, with the prophets. You're calling these fertility gods. Where are they at?
Yeah,
should be no problem for them. They should be able to show who's boss here. And so Elijah's just full on mocking the entirety of who these gods are the entire time.
The attempt by the prophets to call down fire, the prophets of Baal and the prophets of Ashira, to me is very indicative of the way that all false religions and even people who misunderstand Christianity practice faith. They believe that by some great gesture of faith, they're going to be justified. Take Islam, for example, right? We just tonight went out to the mosque. It was unsuccessful. But, God willing, there will be seeds planted there. Take Islam. Jihad is like the highest level of faith action that you can perform. Mm-hmm. And if you are successful in your jihad and you die as a martyr for the cause of Allah, quote unquote, you will be rewarded with the highest honors in paradise.
Yeah.
For them, it's more about the gesture of faith that you make, right? And even in other religions, right? Judaism, it's your adherence to the law. It's your gesture of faith. It's what you're willing to sacrifice. And for, other religions as well, or any system of belief. And again, I say even in Christianity, there's a tendency for us to try and like prove ourselves to God, right? And go out and do these gestures of faith. For the prophets of Baal, it was cutting themselves. Right? That's how they showed they were very serious, and they're willing to sacrifice. They're willing to sacrifice. They're willing to sacrifice. And what does Elijah have to do to get Yahweh to respond? He just calls him. He just says, "Lord, do it." Right? And he has this simple little mustard seed of faith, right? This just simple request before God, and God responds. Because Elijah understands it's not about these gestures of faith. It's not about these grandiose, going through the motions and going through all of these like rituals and all of the things that we do that justify us in our faith. God alone justifies. It is purely by his grace that we can be sanctified and justified and obviously saved. All we have to do is call upon the name of the Lord. Right? That is all God requires of us, because no action we do can save us. No action we do can sanctify us. And it is only by God's grace that anything like that can occur, that we can even perform the action to begin with, let alone be justified by it. Right? It is God who lends us grace that we can go and do these actions. And so for us to try and then repay that by saying, "Oh God, look how good my gestures are. Right? Look how faithful I am to you. Look at all that I'm willing to do for you." God's like, "Who cares? I already made the sacrifice for you. Why are you trying to sacrifice me?" Right? It's kind of going like with the idols. Right? Why are you making idols? You are my idols. Right? Why are you sacrificing? I already sacrificed. Stop trying to one up me. And so I don't know. I found that interesting of, the prophets of Baal making these huge, grandiose gestures of faith. Look how faithful we are. Answer us, respond to us because of how faithful we are and how much we're willing to give up for you. We're willing to bleed for you. And God says, "Well, I'm willing to bleed for you." Right? Yahweh says all it requires is that little bit of faith. Just that word of faith, and then you got it. That's what occurred to me when you talked about the prophets of Baal and their faith.
All right, so we then get to Elijah's response. So Baal's and Ashera's people, they're, as you were just kind of going through, they're cutting themselves, they're calling out to the gods, doing all these things. But they're not responding. There's no response at all. Now Elijah says, "All right, everyone, gather around." Basically, here's what we're gonna do.
You're gonna read him a bedtime story too.
You're going to take all this water, and I want you to dump it all on the wood. Now, I remember growing up thinking that, oh, this is like a cool show-off thing. But think about it, they're in the middle of a famine. Famine's dry. They're giving up. Elijah's saying basically give up anything that is going to be associated.
And that's kind of the case for the oxen too.
Yeah.
Right, because they use that for food.
Yeah, so give up. We're giving up this food. Give up enough this wood. Give up your water. Trust that he's a true God that brings life and fruition, and that this famine will end because of him. trust now on Mount Garden that this will happen. So they bring all the stuff, they pour the waters, they bring the stones, they make this whole thing. The 12 stones represent Israel. You get let's see. Elijah took 12 stones, corresponding to the number of tribes of sons of Jacob, to whom the word of the Lord has come, saying, Israel shall be your name. With the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord, and he made a trench around the altar, large enough to hold 2 measures of seed. Then he laid out the wood, and he cut the ox in pieces and placed it on the wood, and said, fill 4 large jars with the water, and they pour it on. Basically, like, you have this altar, you have all this water, the wood, it is soaked, the rocks are soaked. Everything is like drenched in this water. It should not burn. Elijah prays this really, really awesome prayer where he goes like, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, say, let me know that you are God in Israel and that I am your servant and that I have done all these things at your word. Answer me, Lord, answer me so that this people may know that you, Yahweh, are God and that you have turned their heart back. Then the fire of the Lord fell, consumed the burnt offering in the wood. So you consumed the going up offering and the wood and the stones and the dust. And then in the NASB it says, and it licked up the water that was in the trench. So all of it consumed.
Gone.
That's a hot fire. Like, it's like there's not a particle left.
Right.
It's just gone.
Like lightning obviously wouldn't even come close to that.
Yeah.
Right? It could theoretically consume the wood and the offering.
Yeah.
It might even the heat of it might even like evaporate the water. It's not destroying rock.
It just and like it's gone where the dust.
Right.
And
exactly.
the stone is just gone. This is a consuming fire in like the fullest sense, where it is just gone. So all that stuff that they're like, they need that water. They kind of need that oxygen. Gone, consumed. But we don't know officially, even we've kind of known who truly is God. And then we get Elijah, who is responsible, like, all right, awesome. See, proof. We're right. They're wrong. So because of that, gather those prophets.
Exactly.
Chop, chop.
In the words of General Grievous, kill them all.
He's like, yeah. Some scholars are like, do we take this as a good thing or a bad? Like, what do we do with this? And he's like, yeah, no, just get rid of them. Done. They've led them astray for too long. Kill them off. They deserve this judgment, which is heavy as 450 prophets.
It also explains a lot of why Elisha turned out the way he did. The she-bears make a lot more sense now.
Yeah, it goes, when all the people saw this, it fell on their face, and they said, Yahweh, he is God. Yahweh, he is God. Elijah said to them, seize the prophets of Baal. Do not let one of them escape. So they seized them, and Elijah brought them down to the brook of Kishon, slaughtered them there. Elijah's like, it's like, kill them all. My mind, if I want to go more good guy-ish, is more like Optimus in Transformers 3, where he kind of comes in with the giant cannon after shooting, and he goes, we will kill them all. That's the kind of
yeah, well, probably not.
That's kind of the mind that goes through my head, what like Elijah's pulling right now. He's like, we're going to kill them all right here. Whether or not this is like you should take this as like, okay, judgment's being done, or Elijah, maybe not the best move. And people have gone back and forth on this.
Given what happens next, I'd say it's probably more of an Elisha, not the best move. Or
Yeah.
Elijah, not the best move.
Yeah. That's 450 men you just like
right. And then
killed off right there.
Right. And then God, and then there's immediate like persecution where God kind of leaves him alone. So it's like God might have been looking down like, I didn't tell you to do that.
That wasn't really what I said to do.
Exactly.
You kind of went, one scholar said that he kind of gave into his little inner Cain a little bit. I thought, if you take it, like I kind of lean towards the not the best move. I can hear the case for why like people say it might be because God is known for bringing judgment through people. Sure. But like if we take it that was like, I can see why you would say it's kind of like his inner Cain comes out there.
Right, because once this happens, there's nothing to suggest, at least in the text, there's nothing to suggest that the prophets of Baal wouldn't have repented.
Yeah, like Nineveh, like had that like response. And he just sees them up. It's like you could read like two ways. I'd have to look at the Hebrew grammar. On one hand, you could say like they're there. He says, just gather them. I'm going to kill them all. Or it's like they're like, oh shoot, and they ran. The text I think doesn't really imply the latter. I feel like that's just kind of like I have to look at the grammar. From what I can remember, I don't think it implies that direction. It implies more the former. But definitely like, okay, bit of a strong move right there.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, like you have like awesome, beautiful move. All these people like, he's God, Yahweh's God, and then all right, chop chop, we're gonna do this.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. But then we get, now Elijah said to Ahab, go up and eat and drink, for there is the sound of the roar of heavy shower. Which is like heavy showers and all that heavy rain. So Ahab went up to eat and drink. So this is on the Mount Garden. They're now eating. They're having this feast on the top. But Elijah went up to the top of the mountain, and he bent down to the earth, put his face between his knees, and he said to his servants, go up now, look toward the sea. Interesting that there's some cases where the sea is translated as the west. Is this really interesting? If you do an interlinear search of the word for sea, which is yam, there's times where you'll find that we translate it as the west.
Interesting.
So I've been mulling over why that might be the case. Because I mentioned before, there's some cases where it seems to apply the east. In some vicinities, it's almost like a going away from God's presence. And I was listening to an interview between a priest and Ruslan, where they were saying that there's some New Testament passages where it's kind of like, now it's like the reverse, where the west is like you're told to spit into the west, like towards the devil, and some kind of stuff like that. So like depending on like the region they're in and what the context is, direction can have this theological meaning. If we take it to like I'm not sure if this here should be best as sea or west, but there's a degree of where it's like if you go so far west, it's almost like you're going towards the sea, which could be dangerous. But if you go towards the east, is sometimes viewed as you're going away from God's presence. It's that kind of like that middle spot. It's like that theological idea of being at the center of the world. But anyways, the point being, it's like, okay, look towards there, and this is him telling the servant, and he's saying basically, look towards there, and the servant is saying, well, there's nothing there. He says, well, okay, well, keep going. So it's like a few times more this happens, and eventually, what is like the seventh time, he says, behold, a cloud as small as a person's hand. That's tiny. This is my hand. This is not big a cloud. He's like, it's coming. This cloud's coming. He says, behold, a cloud as small as a person's hand is coming up from the sea. Elijah said, go up, say to Ahab, harness your chariot horse and go down, so that the heavy shower does not stop you. So the small little cloud is bringing a heavy shower in the midst of the famine on Mount Garden. And this is almost like supposed to be like ending with like, we had this really strong moment of Elijah. It was kind of like, okay, is that too far? Is that not too far? Is effectively ending like, okay, we have an Eden moment here. Elijah's been faithful. He trusts in Yahweh. He's trying, in his mind, he's at least bringing what he thinks is the proper judgment for this stuff. People are turning to him. It's basically an Eden moment. Until the next chapter. Which is then when things kind of turn back around in the opposite direction for Elijah.
Yeah. You mentioned there being an Eden moment there. Perhaps then let's walk with me here. And I could be totally off base because I'm trying to think through it right now. So we have a moment of testing.
Yeah.
In which God is demonstrated to be faithful. Then we have a killing. Then we have heavy rains.
You're kind of seeing the idea of potentially a pattern of.
Yeah.
So you're kind of seeing, okay. So I think as you're going, you're kind of seeing, make sure I'm tracking with you.
And especially since you mentioned inner Cain before.
So you're kind of seeing this as we have on Mount Garden, there's a test. There's some who fail the test and some who pass the test. And depending on where you're going to go with Elijah's response. So Elijah, regardless of before the killings, is faithful.
Yes.
You then could go back and forth between different people on the reaction towards the people, which if you want to go towards as a Cain moment, but then he returns to God. So that'd be a Genesis 4.
Right.
And then the rain is a Genesis 6, but then it also is bringing about cleansing a new life, which is Genesis 8 and 9.
Yes.
which then has Eden. So
you're tracking with me.
So so that's interesting. So you're kind of seeing this almost like sort of kind of like Genesis 1 through 10.
Yes.
1 through 9 events all in one chapter.
Exactly.
I think that's a really interesting way to put it. Yeah, I think you can definitely trace those different moments.
Yeah, no, I would need to look a little bit more in depth at it, truthfully, because I just had that thought now as you were saying. I was like, huh.
Yeah, because it ends with a garden moment too,
right?
Of which all garden moments sadly also bring about testings and sometimes and lots
failings and death and flood and doing it again.
I think it's one of those like it's at the very least could be very implied there. Whether it's like directly saying explicitly, hey, this was happening.
Mm-hmm.
I have to look into that more, but I think at least you can get that implication thematically speaking. I think it's definitely an implicit possibility there. And now that I'm just thinking it through, it's like, I can definitely see how that all works together.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. Yeah. No, yeah, I think that works.
Yeah, well, I'll have to look at it a little more.
Yeah, me too. I haven't thought about that. I was thinking more of like the things are peaceful, we're in the garden, everyone's presence, but then you kind of brought like the rain is like the interesting too is like the rain with Genesis 6 through 9 is you have a reversal that we mentioned the Genesis 1 and then the redoing of it, but also Genesis 2 opens with dry land and then water is brought up to bring about the garden and new life. So you kind of get
dry land and then the water is brought up as new life.
Yeah, so you either way you're getting the different parallels.
Well, and that's kind of more so, I would argue, Christ-like, right? Because we are given new life through the blood.
Yeah.
Right. So it's that we call it a precious flood, right? So it's that flood of blood bars that gives us new life, just like this water, this flood, if you will, if we're going with that, provides new life, right? So we are in a dry, dead, arid state of our sin, and it is Christ's blood which acts as that life-giving flood.
Yeah.
So in that case, it would kind of go hand in hand with that.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, the whole narrative of Christ being like Genesis, but without the failings.
Right.
It's really more like all of the recreation texts, which is why Peter is so comfortable to take the flood tied to baptism.
Right.
With the ideas like, so your bodies are going down and are drowning in the chaos water. It's being that decreation of the old self,
that fleshly sin,
and then you're being raised, but through Christ as the ark into new creation.
Right, and so you go down as this, as you just mentioned, right? This death, right, occurs where you go down, and the fleshly body is destroyed, in effect, and then raised a new temple of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
So we got through about half of what we wanted to, but it is now really late, and we both have stuff to do in the morning.
I'm less worried about that. He's more.
Yeah,
he's kicking me out.
Yes, I am exhausted. I need to go to bed. I got fun stuff to do with the family in the morning.
I think the fun part is that they're going to be hearing us in the morning.
Yeah,
we're talking about this at night.
Yes, yeah. But anyways, so we we're gonna get going. I'm trying. Hang on, I can think of it. I can do this. Give me.
Thank you for tuning in. Hang on.
If you don't want to be consumed by Yahweh's fire, make sure you like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell to know whenever we post, so that way you can see Josh do that a lot more whenever we record. Thank you all so very much for watching, and if you have appreciated it, we really hope that you let us know down in the comments below. With all that said, guys, Lord willing, we will see you in the next one. Peace.
If I could do this every single time. Peace.